Welcome to the Victorious Living Podcast. You're about to hear real stories of real people who have discovered the real hope of Jesus Christ. I'm Christy Overton Johnson, the founder and publisher of Victorious Living magazine. Since 2011, I've had the privilege of sharing the most amazing life stories. I never cease to be amazed at the life-transforming power of Jesus Christ. Today in our podcast, you're going to go deeper into these amazing God stories and hear from those who have overcome incredible odds and discover how they found a life of freedom. You can discover it too. I trust that you'll enjoy today's conversation between our host and our special guest. Thank you for listening, and be sure to share the hope you hear and the mission of Victorious Living. Welcome to the Victorious Living Podcast. I'm your host, Brooke, on the mic with Mike Jenkins. Mike, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I read your story in the Victorious Living magazine, and your story is so impactful. There's been a lot of twists and turns. There's been a lot of healing and overcoming certain just generational just disadvantages and curses in your life. And it's been really cool to just read. And now I have the human form of Mike Jenkins here to share your story and just talk about what God has done and what he is doing in your life and to offer hope to those who are listening. So Mike, your story starts off just kind of messy, and there were things in your life that just places that you were taken just because life took you there, and just the family that you were born into. And I know that there was kind of a little caveat in your story that's like, hey, I love my mom. You know, there's better days ahead, but this is where we started. So why don't you tell us a little bit of where you started and your relationship with your mom and your family?
Where I started is the first thing you can't do. What I realized is you can't pick and choose family, right? You can't pick and choose like, oh yeah, I want to be with this family. So the ironic thing is I didn't know I had a story. I just thought that's what 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds do. I thought it was just normal. I thought it was just normal that, you know, I got to wake up in the morning and fix the bottle because my mama won't wake up. Like it wasn't nobody else. Like I looked around, and I used to, early in my earlier days, I used to call out for my mother, and she would never wake up. So it's like, just like a sport, it's like a muscle memory. I just trained myself. Instead of me spending 30 minutes trying to call my mom to come do something with my little sister, take care of her, I can just go ahead and get up, warm the bottle up, change and pamper, and go back to sleep within 10 minutes.
Yep. Yeah. If no one's going to do it, I might as well do it. Kind of do the job yourself. Yeah.
Instead of sitting there and just waiting and yelling and getting up trying to fight with her. So once I realized we warm the bottle up, change the pamper and stuff like that. So that just came embedded into me. I can't say once I got older into my teenage years, once I realized, like, the way I put 2 and 2 together was movies.
Okay.
Like, it was a movie called New Jack City. An old movie came out, right? And it's about, you know, some guys selling drugs, and it took over a whole apartment complex. But once me watching movies, it kind of like, oh, that's what it is. Oh, that's what that is. So I was able to piece together, because my mother tried to keep it a secret for a long time. I knew things were weird, right? I seen her smoke crack, but I didn't know it was a crack pipe. Like, I seen these things. I seen the drugs, but I didn't know what the drugs was. Like, she hung around a lot of gangsters and guys like that. I didn't know who those guys, how serious those guys was, until I started like looking at movies. Then I go back and look at my life. Then I look at the movies.
Oh wait, there's some similarities here. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. So you kind of had to raise yourself in a way.
I really did.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and I had a grandmother, right? My grandmother always prayed for me. So I can remember, you know, moving around a lot and staying different places. But I could clearly remember my 8th grade year, my grandmother used to talk to me about my emotions, right? And she said, well, Michael, it's not normal for you not to feel nothing. I didn't know nothing about emotions and feelings. Like, it was like she was talking a foreign language.
Yeah.
And she just asked me, how do I feel about mother going to prison and, you know, coming back home and moving here and staying there. And I didn't feel nothing. I didn't know what to feel. Little did I know that is the defense mechanism. So I had experienced so much pain when I mean like disappointment pain. Like, I don't know why I can remember certain things, but I clearly remember I was like in second grade and I realized Santa Claus wasn't real because I ran downstairs, go to the Christmas tree, want nothing there.
Yeah.
Didn't nobody ever tell me Santa Claus wasn't real. Like, that's when I realized, like, oh, he's fake. And I boo-hoo cried.
Yeah, you're like, then
right?
what else is fake? Like, what else are people not telling me? Yeah.
I don't know why I clearly remember that.
Yeah.
Right. But what I do now I done got more into like educating myself about how the brain works and whatnot. That was a trauma situation for me. And that's why I can remember those things. It wasn't trauma as far as like physical hurt trauma, but I was so traumatized that I thought Santa Claus was real. I run down the steps, and there's nothing under the tree. Like, I'm talking about feelings hurt. Like, I boo-hoo cry. So so it was a lot of things like that happened, not physical things that made me hurt, but just emotional things that I was disappointed. And so I guess just not realizing my body, my mind start to shut down certain feelings.
Oh yeah.
So once I got a little 8th grade, my grandmother said, that's when I realized like something is not quite okay with me mentally. But I had football, and football was my stress relief. I think that's how I go so long through so much stuff, because that was my de-stressor. Like, I always play sports.
Yeah.
So I just learned how to take my pain and frustration out in the game. Right. And that's what made me a hard worker. I love to work out. I love like a nice fit guy right now. Like, it's my lifestyle. Like, I have to have it. It's a part of my lifestyle. People compliment me on my size. When I tell them, hey, I'm 40 years old. I've been lifting weights since I was 12.
Yeah. Right. It's something that it's an avenue that you found, as a release and as a place to, I mean, the endorphins that are released whenever you work out, and just, it's so cool how God created our bodies and our minds. Right. And so when you're depressed or you're anxious, all you want to do is, your brain wants to protect itself.
Right.
So it starts shutting down a little bit, and it starts kind of creating these walls, and you want to shelter yourself, and which really hinders you when it comes to humbling yourself before the Lord. It hinders you in a romantic relationship. It hinders you in your friendships. It hinders you with, your mom or your dad or your sister or whoever is in your life. And so when you're protecting yourself, ultimately, number one, you need Jesus. Number two, you need therapy, but you're protecting yourself too from like good emotions, and you're shutting it all out.
And what's really happening is you're protecting yourself from the most important person, which is yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, when you start shutting these emotions down, it's hard to love yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest thing I come across. Like, me as an adult, like, adults know how to mask emotions to a T. It's like Halloween 365, because my trauma situations that I had growing up, that's the foundation as a man who I am today. I'm gonna be honest with you, I still gotta practice on smiling. Like, Mike, smile. Remember, like, I still gotta tell myself these things.
Yeah.
Like, my wife still has to remind me, Mike, why you talk to me so harsh? Like, I still has those situations where I could just say what I gotta say and that's it. Like, I can be verbally like cutthroat in a nice way. I mean, in a nice way. I know how to hurt people, in a nice way, but that's not the godly way. So I have learned is that I had to attack the issues that I had going on. And the biggest thing is, first it was my mom, right? Then I realized, you know what? I came to a certain age where I used my mom as an excuse. So then I had to look at like, okay, a lot of stuff I did on my own.
Right.
I'm the one. I dropped out of college.
Taking responsibility for your actions.
Accountability. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I dropped out of college I dropped out of college to sell drugs. Like, I started smoking and drinking. Like, my mom allowed me, but she didn't force me to do nothing. She didn't say no, but she didn't say yes either.
Right.
So I encourage, like, I started this habit of smoking and drinking when I was at 11, 12 years old. I started hanging around guys that I knew
Yeah.
sold drugs and
You're
was
right.
violent guys. Like, these are choices that I made. And once you get older, um, it's hard to swallow those pills sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard, and that's what I have used my faith for. I use my faith to be able to accept me, my goods and my wrong about myself. Um, that's the only reason I got saved. To be honest with you, I didn't get saved to be right here today, like to be
Right.
married for 17 years and 4 kids. Like, I didn't get saved for that.
Yeah.
I got saved because I really didn't like myself, and I was afraid to die. I thought I wasn't right. I
Right.
really thought I wasn't until death starts to lurk around. It's like a spirit. It starts to lurk around you and it's haunting you like days and days on end, like in weeks turn to months. Then before I know it, I'm somebody totally different. Then I realized, like, okay, now I don't
Right.
want to die.
Yeah. So it's interesting because obviously we all have our own journeys, and we all have our own stories of how we came to Christ and how he's changed our life. But and I've talked about this before on Victorious Living podcast, but we will, like, when it comes to like our faith in Jesus, it's like sometimes we're like, oh, it's just a get out of hell free card. And of
Right,
course, like, it's great that we get to go to heaven and we get to be with the Lord, but that's not just it, right? Like, abundant life here is also a component of giving your life to Christ. And so
right,
again, you were thankful and, like, almost like, again, like you're saying, fearful for what was on the other side, right?
right, right,
But in that, the Lord has also been kind to reveal himself to you, that in his name, you have life and life abundantly, and life here on earth. And that's where all the other, like, goodness and things that you see in your life, where you're like, wait, I did nothing to deserve a great marriage. I did
right,
nothing to deserve these amazing kids. I did nothing to deserve the positions I'm in. I did nothing to deserve, the mercy of, not being in prison or whatever. Like, you can look at your life and go, wait, there was more than just getting out of hell card.
right. Look, I don't deserve it.
Right. None of us
I
do.
don't. I do not deserve the
Yeah.
life that I'm living right now. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, let me get myself together. I'm about to cry.
Yeah.
But let me
Yeah.
breathe. But I just don't, like, I know what kind of person I was. Like, I know what thoughts I had. Like, I know what emotions that carried on the inside of me. It was poisonous. Right? Poison. I call it like a cancer. And I hate to use that term because I understand, but it's almost like
No,
the
yeah. It's
easiest symbolism that I can explain to people. Like, it was cancerous. And it was only God was like my chemo. Like, that was my therapy. Like, that was my emotional therapy. Like, I started, okay, so once I high school and I go to college, I drop out and start selling drugs. After all the traumatizing events that the magazines talks about, the stuff that we don't talk about is the emotional side, the day-to-day living, the being 13 or 14 years old, never having a birthday party, or walking around really upset and really angry. Like, the magazine, I love the magazine. I love the way Chrissy described it and wrote it. But what the people can't get from the magazine is the emotional trauma. That was the hardest thing. The magazine, the words and stuff I went through, for me, that stuff was like, it's just a day. It's like having a bad day. Like the guy who tried to molest me, like, that's just having a bad day. When I try to kill, like, that was just me. That was just a day. After that, it was cool. He realized, like, okay, don't mess with Mike. Mike is serious. Like, you see what I mean? So
yeah.
after that, we came cool. Go shoot basketball, act like nothing happened. It was almost like he tried to test me and he realized, like, oh, nah, he's serious. He's different. I'm gonna leave him alone. After that, we became best friends. Go shoot basketball. Never had another issue again. Right. So the situations in my life are like bad days and bad months, maybe bad years. But the problem that I couldn't shake is the emotional side. It all collectively stayed in
Oh,
together,
it's deep.
and they wouldn't leave.
Yeah. It connects all of the traumas and situations we've been through are all connected. We like to connect and piece things together. And I've even had that before where I've, had my own little mental breakdown, and I'll talk to my parents and they'll be like, all right, let's take each individual situation and dissect it. Right.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, all right, so this hurt here has nothing to do with this person hurting you over here.
Right.
It feels the same. It feels the same because it's taking you back to that dark place. But this person doesn't even know this person or what you were dealing with, because they have their own hurt and they're viewing their life through the lens of their own eyes. Right. And so how can we, and that's what, again, that's also what therapy does. It's also what, walking with the Lord does. He helps you in the pain, go back to those moments and surrender them and ask for healing. And I do want to talk to you a little bit about your wife. Something that stood out to me in your story with her was the repentant attitude that you had, where you said, it makes me sick to think about how I treated her and made her feel. But that wasn't always how you felt, because there was a point where you were just living selfishly and you guys were hurting each other, and, you were living more of a wayward life. So at what point did you have that epiphany that how I'm treating her is not honoring?
Okay. Be blunt, right?
Yeah.
Tell you the truth. So she's been pregnant 5 times. We got 4 kids. The second pregnancy, she had a stillborn at 8 months. And the doctor said it was due to stress. See, my first child was born, I was 2003, I think 19. I was 19. She got pregnant the next year, and she lost that baby. 2 years later, with a year and a half, she lost that child. But that was one of my darkest moments. I dropped out of college, selling drugs. I'm running with some real serious guys. For me be able to hang with these guys the way they thought, I stopped picking up the same mindset. So I just wanted to do some dangerous stuff. That was my duty. It was I was like a hired security guard, right? So if you're a security guard in the streets, you already kind of know what comes with that life. Protection at any means. So mindset, that's all I was prepared for. To protect the person who's helping me feed my family. That's what I thought, right? I was so much loyal, feeding my family, so I could give the money. He was giving me the drugs to help me. And I thought that he was helping me feed my family too. That's the lifestyle I want to live. So in return, I want to be his security guard. It's no off and on switch. That's when I realized something's going on, because it was no off and on switch. We would argue, and I would verbally never hit her, because I see my mother get beat. So I never hit a woman, because I know the traumatizing emotion that did to me. So
with the verbal and emotional.
Yeah, I realized you use some words, you can hit somebody that will come back down, might be, but you say some words, the words linger long.
Especially when you consider the source, when they're your spouse or they're your parent or there's somebody that has a microphone into your life.
Right.
They hurt worse than some, stranger.
I could jab at her when she make me mad. I would jab at her verbally, to say some real cutthroat stuff. It got so bad, I was like, you can take my son, I'll make me another one. It was it was childishness. Yeah. Stuff like that. So once I got saved, right, the role switched. So when she had a stillborn, I wanted to be a killer, and I realized I killed the thing that didn't have nothing to do with nothing. That was number one. That was me going down. That was my rabbit hole. That's my first rabbit hole, because I was so verbally abusive. We wouldn't be in person. We'd be on the phone. My friends, she felt smothered. I'd be out of town. My friends, she'll go out and hang out at the party. My friends be watching her, and she'd get upset. She'll call me why you got your friends watching me? I can't do nothing. You're somewhere else doing God knows what with God knows who. But when I go somewhere, you have your friends. They're my security guard. I can't have a life for myself. And I used to be that's the life you chose when you mess with somebody like me. So I used to do stuff like that. And when the stillborn happened, it was more once I found out why it happened, it was more wow. What are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, like a
What's
mirror
wrong
was
with you?
put up to you of like, hey,
Yeah. I
yeah,
say I'm around here. Kept saying I'm dangerous. My nickname was Killer. I'm talking. I'm ready to do all this stuff. I'm willing to die. I'm ready to kill somebody. Like this is my mindset is. But the one thing I killed that died from my reactions was something that had nothing to do with nothing. It was my own child. That there broke. But
oh,
nobody knew it. Like nobody knew it, how bad it really like affected me. Nobody ever knew. Probably never really talked about it this way to anybody, to be honest with
yeah,
you. but
yeah,
but that really broke me. So that's that was like the real reason I started searching. That's when I said in the beginning, like death was lurking, like it was during that time. So I really realized like man, I don't want to die. Like I did enough damage. I didn't even mean to, right? I didn't know how to control my emotion. So I go to church. I gave my life to Christ, and right then I felt relief. Just at church.
yeah.
That was it. It was just at church. I went home. My mom was still doing her thing, but I wanted to change. Um, my wife role switch. Now she stopped being verbally abusive to me. Now she's really upset. We arguing all the
Hurt.
time.
Yeah,
I was okay with it. I
yeah.
feel like I deserved it.
Yeah. So yeah, right. It's because what we're tempted to do in relationships and in a relationship with God is tit for tat. Well, you did this, so I'm doing this. And
Yeah.
that can lead to a whole nother thing of mess. But anyways, keep going. So roles reverse
So
and your wife.
role reversed for a year. She wasn't married then. She had my first child. So she would come drop the child off, and she would do just like spiteful things. And I was okay with it because I feel like I deserved everything. So we did it for about she did it for about almost a year. So it came to a point, and I was like, listen, I'm not retaliating no more. Like, I mean, when I say immediately, like people didn't know about it. She thought I was playing because I stopped listening to real like gangster rap music. I stopped smoking. Like I just stopped because
A
I
life
know,
change.
yeah, because the baby changed me. That baby, Michaela, that's her name. It changed my life because first of all, I wasn't raised that way. Number one.
Yeah.
Number one, I wasn't raised that way. Right? I always been around street life activity, but I was never in it. My mama did drugs, but my mama never wanted me to go into the street life. My
Right.
mama
Right.
always wanted me to do the right thing. She was the type, she always told me she can do wrong, but she wanted me to do right. And she tried to her best ability, but she never encouraged me. I never sold any drugs until I got out of my mama's house. I did smoke weed and we drunk, but I never did. I never sold nothing. Like I was never really. My friends, even her older friends, like the guys she used to sell for, was real serious guys. But they always protected me.
Yeah.
They always here get some money. You go here. You leave here. When I first started selling drugs, the guy who said my mama drugs, he didn't let me go sell drugs. He made me sit on his porch. And he bought all my weed from. He bought all my marijuana from me. So I wouldn't have to go
Wow.
sell it to nobody.
Wow.
They try to protect me for them.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I wasn't this type of person I
Person.
started. That wasn't me. Deep inside, it wasn't me. I was going into that because that's who I was hanging around.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel that way too, where they're like, wait, this isn't me, but I'm wrapped up in this.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, so I did. I started going to church. So after a year, I told her, like, if we can't just talk, I understand she hurt. All I can do is apologize. It hurt me too, but we just can't talk about my son. We don't need to see each other anymore. You just drop him off or whatever. And so she started coming to church. She was interested to see, and she thought I was changing because there was a female in there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. You know what I'm really loving about your story is it's so real, so relatable. I know so many people are probably listening to this, like being able to put themselves in your shoes, knowing exactly the immaturities and the messiness and the games. The games are real, the game
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
But like you said, you going to church wasn't a game. And
No.
then your girlfriend at the time, now your wife, was like, all right, Let's see.
Let,
Let's see. And how cool of God to redeem this story.
hey, let me tell you something. She was going to church. She was going to fight. She was going, let me see who this girl you talking to, right?
Yeah.
Because she got you acting different.
Yeah. She's
Like,
like, I'll
you
cut
didn't
her
do it with
and
me.
get her
Yeah,
out. Like, who is
yeah,
she? Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
How she's getting a good you now. That was her
yeah. Well, I
mindset.
had the
She thought,
bad you. Yeah.
right,
You try to ruin my life, and now you're a little
right,
angel for this girl. Not on my
right, right,
watch. Yeah.
right. So she went to church. I mean, faithfully, about 2 months before she realized, like, ain't nobody here for him. He's different. Once that happened, her mindset of coming to church start changing. And
Yeah.
with like within like next door less than a year, she got saved.
Wow.
So she got saved, and uh, then after that we still had some bumps and bruises, but it was more like a process of healing together.
Yeah. The rest is history, as they say. So she
Yeah,
realized there were no cute girls at the church. She wasn't threatened to, and then, for lack of better words, but no, I love that story because it's raw, it's real. I think it's easy to look at Christian couples who have been together. Like if you were to write a bio and be like, happily married, 17 years, Christian, 4 kids, one in heaven, and like wrote that, people wouldn't know what it took to get there or what the
even,
Lord had done.
even to 2 years about our 15-year anniversary, and I told like, let deuces, I'm tired of this. Like we had some turmoil going on, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Why you gonna throw all this away? All the time we put into it?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm just tired." She was like, "What? Really?" And then once I got to myself, I was like, "Mike, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, you just
But that's
tired?"
what emotions are indicators, but they're not good masters. And
Uh-uh.
so when you live your life based on
Your emotion.
emotions, because I can be, you know how many times okay, there's this funny meme that goes around, but this is me to the core because can be petty. But when I was younger and I'd get mad at my parents, I would pack my entire dresser into a suitcase and walk out the front door. I mean, I'm like 7 or 8 years old. And I'm like, I'm packing a bag. That was me. Like, my parents are like, you're going to get to the driveway. Like, we're not worried about you. Cause then you get to the driveway and you're like, I'm going to have no food. I have no job.
Yeah.
These are the only guys I got right now.
Right.
And it's funny though, because as silly as that example is, in my mind as a young person, that was the only option. Was I am hurt or whatever it is, or I feel a certain way. So the only option is to pack a bag and leave.
Right.
And again, now there's a meme that goes around. It's so funny. It's like, were you like born and raised in the 90s and you were packing a bag every time your
Yeah,
parents
you're
made
right.
you mad? And I'm like, that was me. Like, I was like, that's it, I'm out. And again, it's easy to do that. And then normally when you make a decision based out of emotion, where I know people who are, behind bars right now listening to this, they maybe made a very emotionally charged decision, looking back that they regret
Yeah.
because that's not who they are. It's not where they were headed. And by God's mercy, they're serving time so they can have a chance at a better life. But we all do that. We can all
Yeah.
do things that make us go, what was I thinking? It's the
Thinking.
same thing that people do when they text their ex. Don't put your phone down. Like, don't make
Hey,
an emotionally charged decision.
let me tell you something. That stress
Yeah.
will change your character secretly.
Yeah.
Like, see, what happened was it was things that was going on that I didn't know how to communicate. Like, this is going back to my story, in my marriage. I was married for 15 years and I didn't know how to communicate certain things. You think I would know how to communicate my emotion or something I didn't like, right? But I was so trying to be so passive, like in the beginning, my beginning stage of my Christianity walk. So I wouldn't show that anger. I would just let stuff go. But once I controlled my anger, I didn't have that rage anymore. I still had that same
Feeling.
muscle memory. Yeah, I
Yeah.
still had the same muscle memory, that feeling where, okay, it's okay. I ain't gonna say nothing. It's cool. I just brush it under the rug.
And then
But
it builds and it builds and it builds. And then you have a mountain underneath your rug that's about to be a volcano and erupt. And that's when
said,
I'm leaving. I'm packing the
it's time to
bag.
go. Yeah,
See you later. Enjoy your
right.
life. Oh yeah, it's funny because my family jokes about me being nuclear. They call me nuclear because I'll be in a situation, you know, even just like in a dating life or whatever. I'll be like, nope, I'm done. Bye.
Yeah.
Nuclear. It could be something so small, so
Yeah.
silly. And that number one is immature. But I've heard a sermon before and I love it. I wish I remember what the sermon was called, but it was a sermon by a pastor named Levi Lesko. He was talking about a cheetah, and a cheetah is, you know, the fastest land animal. And the amount of friction that a cheetah has because he's running so fast and he gets so hot, his head has a cooling mechanism so that his head doesn't get hot. And I was like, wow, like that's how we should be, right? We're moving towards something, you know, a lot of us are moving really fast in life, and it's a hustle. And, you know, maybe you've grown fast in your walk with the Lord, or maybe you've healed fast. But when you're fast, sometimes you can get a hot head, you know,
Yeah.
something could tip you over, something, you know, or maybe you're on the other end of things and it feels like things bad in your life are adding up fast.
Right.
And it's hard to keep a cool head when there's a lot of heat going on in your body. And so, you know, that's a really cool imagery when you think about it. And then when you take that further, and Levi didn't say this, but this just came to me, but when you take that further to the body of Christ, that Christ is the head and we are the body. Thank God he has a cool head.
Galatians 6:9. Like,
Yep.
you can't get tired of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
If you don't give up or get discouraged, you shall be rewarded. Like,
Yeah.
I can remind and these are principles that I had to remind myself. Like, and this is how I live my faith life. Like, I'll tell people, even if I'm doing FCA, I'm not at ECU anymore. The character just wasn't a good fit for me due to the fact that I didn't understand how much time my college coach spends in the off season.
Yeah.
My purpose and my ministry is home first. God showed me that long time ago.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, then I was, you know, looking at
taking some inventory.
The great job, what looks good on the outside to how it looks on the inside.
Right.
And what nobody didn't know was my kids' grades had dropped just because nobody wasn't used to me being gone 8 months out of 12. Right. And I'm telling them what to do, but I learned there's a difference from telling my kids what to do and being there. See, me and my wife are a great tag team. I'm the good cop. She's a good cop. I'm the bad cop.
Yeah.
She's a talker. I'm the disciplinary.
Yep.
Right.
Wait till your dad gets home and you're coming home. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a rational thinker. I'm the they did it. Like,
yeah. No. These kids.
Yeah.
She's
optimistic. They did it.
Yeah.
She was like, so,
yeah, balance.
Yeah, it really is. So that's why the transition to ECU happened. I'm glad for the experience, but I'm even more proud of my growth of being mature to realize, okay, it's not a good fit, Mike.
And
now,
that's a hard decision, but a really good one, because I've heard it said before, if you, I heard a pastor say this once, the church is only getting 40 hours of my week, just like I would in a 9-to-5 job. Like if I'm giving more of my time to the church, and my family's my greatest ministry, and they don't have their dad at home pouring into them, what good am I if I have a growing church, but my family is depleted? And that's a very wise thing.
And it was great shots. I had a mentor, and even to the coach Houston, he set me down in my office, in his office, and said, "Hey, Mike, what is your purpose?" And I was like, "What is your purpose?" To do what I'm doing now. Yeah. But in hindsight, he's seen it before I did.
Yeah.
He really seen how much
cool.
I committed to my family, how much I really love my family, how much I love to be around my family, and what kind of commitment this job would take away from your family.
Right.
And how my family was orchestrated. I can't say for nobody else, but just for me and how my family was orchestrated, I was meant to be, you know.
And some things are just for a season, and that was a season of your life, and God has definitely shepherded you into different seasons. I absolutely love your story. There's a verse that I wrote down when I thought of your story, and we'll wrap up in just a minute, but it's in Romans 5, and we boast in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. And I love that because that word character stands out to me when it comes to your story, because your character has been tested and tried through the fire. And what an awesome position that you had to be an FCA character coach, and just the doors that God's opened for you, and the character that you're developing in your kids, and the character in your marriage together that you guys are working on is such a beautiful depiction of God and his patience towards us, and that we can also glory in our sufferings because it produces perseverance, our character, and character, hope. And so I want to end with this, Mike. I want to ask you, what is one of your favorite qualities about God?
Aha.
There's
Grace.
a lot. There's a lot,
Grace.
but what's something that's like been highlighted in your life?
Life. To live. And to live more abundantly. That's why when you said that verse I'm holding on to right now, you know, I asked some kids, like, what's their favorite Bible verse? Yes. And I realized that, like, it depends on the season you're in. And a teenager said that. She's like, right now, I'm thinking about this. But right now, like Galatians 6:9 used to be one of them. But right now, it's Romans 8:28. All things work together for the good of those that love God. I mean, all things.
That's
all
insane.
Things.
Yeah, it's insane.
All things.
All of them.
And for me to sit back and all the stuff I've been through, and you put it right here, right now, there's no way I'm able to talk to me going to Bible school in Oklahoma. Like, I can talk to I can minister to the ministers, right? I can talk to the guy that's asking for change, right? I can talk to the female that feel like she has no hope. Like, everything that my life consists of, all things, Romans 8:28. See, I used to get mad about my past. Right now, I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah.
And that's why I can say, like, the characteristics it's life.
Because life abundantly.
Life abundantly. Because all things work together, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
It just takes a little time to sit back and see how God's working it out in your favor.
Yep. It does.
It don't seem like it.
That's that key too in Romans 5 about perseverance. Like, you know, need to be like perseverant and patient, because things work out for your good and his glory, but it takes time, and not everything's an overnight thing. And so trusting him and trusting his heart towards you is huge. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story on the Victorious Living podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Victorious Living podcast. Did you know that you can help incarcerated men and women experience victorious living? Visit victoriouslivingmagazine.com to find out more information. Are you an inmate in prison who needs encouragement? Write to us at Victorious Living, P.O. Box 2751, Greenville, North Carolina 27836. Every inmate who writes to us from prison receives personal correspondence from our team, quarterly devotions, as well as their own quarterly subscription to Victorious Living magazine.